collection?
Yes.
Was your next involvement with the case after Jason Cochran's death?
That's correct.
And were you Detective Ogden's partner in 2016?
You're not really a partner. Everybody has assignments. Everyone has 10 to 20 cases. And if you're not busy that day, someone will say, hey, can you go with me to do this or that? And that's where I would get involved with them.
So did you go on an excursion with Detective Ogden in the spring of 2016?
I did.
And what was the purpose of that excursion?
To locate a body which Jason put.
Well, how did you get information that Jason put a body somewhere in Indiana?
From the defendant stated he did, that he put a body in one of our parks.
And was anything found at that location in the park?
No.
Was there more than one time, to your knowledge, that either yourself or Detective Ogden was called to check on bone locations or body locations at the defendant's command?
Yes, I received a call personally. I was in charge that day, and she wanted to take us out and locate another body, and I told her we didn't have the time, and so she set up a time. She set up a location to meet her. She didn't show up at that time, so we didn't go.
And to your knowledge, has anybody been located in any of the parks in that area?
Yeah. April 28th, approximately 10:30 p.m.
And were you contacted by someone on April 28th at approximately 10:30 p.m.?
Yes, I was contacted by Detective Ogden.
And what was the purpose of that contact?
He received a call from the authorities in Kentucky that the defendant was taken into custody.
And was there a request made with respect to the defendant in Kentucky?
The defendant wanted to give a statement to Detective Ogden.
And what did Detective Ogden want from you?
To go along with him down there and be partners.
Okay, so on April 28th, did you leave for Kentucky? You said this was 10:30 p.m. What time did you leave for Kentucky?
11:30, 12 o'clock at night.
And do you recall what county you were going to in Kentucky?
Graves County, Kentucky.
And where is that located in Kentucky?
In the southwest corner by Missouri, Illinois, south of Illinois, Arkansas, all in the...
Somewhere down there?
All in that general corner.
Okay. Approximately how long did it take you and Detective Ogden to get there?
5.5 hours.
And approximately what time did you arrive?
Approximately 5:30 a.m.
Upon arrival in Graves County, Kentucky, what did you do first?
Initially, we thought we were going to take a nap. We were both tired, and we laid back, but we were both wound up.
So you were unable to take a nap?
Correct.
So what did you do next?
We went inside and did an interview.
Did the interview with her resume on April 30th?
It did.
And where was the interview on April 30th?
On the 30th, we went to the Mayfield Police Department.
And did that have better facilities than the Graves County Jail for interviewing?
Absolutely.
In what way?
It had audio and video.
And what was your role during the interview on April 30th?
Just sit and observe and ask questions also.
Was Detective Ogden the primary interviewer on that date?
This was his case, correct?
Did you do something else the evening of April 30th?
I did.
And what did you do the evening of April 30th?
I went and searched the defendant's vehicle that she had taken down into Kentucky.
And why did you search the defendant's vehicle on that date?
For evidence.
Okay. Where was the vehicle located?
At the Kentucky State Police impound.
Was there something specific you were looking for in the vehicle, or was it a general, any instrumentalities of a crime type search warrant?
During the interview, that we learned that there was some envelopes that were in the vehicle. I
And so-
also located a DSM-4 manual in the vehicle.
So you were looking for some envelopes specifically in the vehicle. Did you find those envelopes?
I did.
Okay. And Your Honor, at this time, we would offer People's Exhibit number 6 and People's Exhibit number 5. We don't intend to read them to the jury at this time, or portions of them to the jury at this time, as there will be an officer testifying tomorrow with respect to them. Exhibit
Those
number...
are letters from the defendant to those individuals.
They are, Your Honor, and one set is redacted and one set is unredacted.
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay, they're numbered.
Yes, Your Honor.
What are their numbers?
Number 5 is the unredacted copy. Number 6 is the redacted.
5 and 6 are received.
Thank you. Now, you indicated that you also found a DSM-4 manual.
Correct.
Do you know what that is?
It's a book on psychology, on traits of behavior.
Now, I'm going to turn to the next day, May 1st, 2016. How did the day start with the defendant?
She was angry when we walked in, and so I think I immediately asked her, do you want to go outside and have a cigarette?
And did that occur?
It did.
And how were things once you got outside and had a cigarette?
She was cordial, friendly, talkative.
Was Detective Ogden with you at that time, or was it just you and...
No, Detective Ogden was also with me.
So did she set the agenda for the day's interview while you guys were outside having a cigarette?
She did.
And what did she say that you were going to talk about that day?
We were only going to talk about bodies that were buried and murders that were committed.
And you said bodies that were buried and murders that were committed. Bodies that were buried by whom and murders that were committed by whom?
By Ms. Cochran.
Were you the primary interviewer that day?
No.
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 Detective Ogden was?
Yes. We were both in and out quite a bit.
And why were you in and out quite a bit?
Because initially, the first thing we started talking about was the murder of a truck driver on her trip down to Kentucky.
And where did she say the murder of that truck driver occurred?
In Effany, Illinois.
And is that near Mattoon?
It is.
And how did you feel about interviewing her that day?
Apprehensive, leery.
Did you give her anything to write with that day?
I did. Towards the end of the interview, she was given a felt tip pen.
And you indicated that you and Detective Ogden were in and out. Was that after she had given you this information that a murder had occurred of a truck driver on the way to Kentucky?
Correct. Because then Detective Ogden started checking on that and putting out bolos.
And what's a bolo?
Information of what possibly occurred. Be on the lookout for a truck. Basically, a truck was supposed to be on the side of the road.
And what discussion, if any, did she say happened regarding this trucker in Mattoon, Illinois on the way to Kentucky?
That she had a conversation with him about the weather, and that she basically murdered him
How?
by stabbing him in the eyes.
And what did she indicate about stabbing him in the eyes?
That she had never done that before.
How did she tell you this occurred? You don't just come up to somebody and stab them in the eyes. How did this occur?
I believe she said she pulled him out of the truck or something, which she's strong enough.
Was she checked into a motel? Was there any discussion regarding the motel?
Yes, there was.
And what did she say about the motel?
That she had stopped at the motel, that he had parked at the motel, and that they had a conversation at the motel.
And did she indicate whether the actual murder occurred at the motel or the side of the road?
I recall her saying she left the body at the side of the road.
So you and Detective Ogden start making phone calls to see if you can verify this incident, correct?
Detective Ogden did, correct.
You remained in the interview room?
At times.
How long did this interview last?
About 2 hours, 20 minutes.
And while you're in the interview with her, in the interview room with her, and Detective Ogden is out, was there questioning of her about the other murders she was discussing earlier when you were outside?
She was going to give me a list of people that Jason and she had murdered.
Did you get the impression that this truck was a semi-truck?
It was, yes, sir. It was a sandwich.
I'm sorry, Judge, I did not hear your question.
I asked him if he got the impression that the truck was a semi-truck.
And what was the response?
Yes.
It was a sandwich.
So you start talking with her about these other people she claims to have killed, is that correct?
That's correct.
Were you able to get any, was the discussion productive?
No.
And why not?
There was no detail on last names or places.
Now, how did you feel as you're talking with her about this?
Again, very leery of her. I was really ready to take action. I felt like she was almost going to come at me.
Well, you said she was giving you no details, no last names. So how did you feel about the responses you were getting from her during the interview?
To me, it was typical of the defendant to try to divert your attention to something else. She would never stay on point.
How long did, what time do you think you left Graves County, Kentucky that day?
Early afternoon.
And that was a Sunday, correct?
That's correct.
Did you receive some materials from Mattoon Police Department that evening?
We did.
Approximately what time did you receive those?
In the evening.
You don't recall the
I
time?
don't. Maybe 7 o'clock.
Did you open them that evening?
No.
Do you know what these materials were related to or what they were from?
They were from a dumpster and then from a room, I believe, in the tomb.
Were you able to verify whether or not a trucker had actually been killed?
No trucker was ever killed.
Your Honor, I believe Mr. Schulte wants to take a sidebar for a moment before I introduce or discuss the next piece of evidence.
Members of the jury, just remain seated, please. All right, the attorneys and I are back in the courtroom. We have one of those sidebars, members of the jury. be discussing some legal issues that do not concern you. Ms. Paul?
Detective, did you, you indicated that you gave the defendant a felt tip pen. Was she writing a statement for you?
Not a statement, she was writing names.
And this was a list of names?
Correct.
And what did the list pertain to?
It pertained to people that she claimed she and Jason had murdered or took part in.
Your Honor, subject to our conversation in chambers, if people would move to admit people's proposed exhibit number 7, conditioned upon the redaction that was discussed.
All right, Mr. Shoki, with that, you have no objection. Number 7 is received. Just how many names are on that list?
There's some blank spots. So. The list is 21, but there are 6 blank spots. So,
Okay, so 15.
correct.
All right, thank you.
I have no further questions.
Now that was number 7.
People's proposed exhibit, oh yes, People's exhibit number 7.
All right, Mr. Shoki.
Sure, thank you.
Afternoon, sir. You mentioned in your testimony that Kelly had directed to, I believe it was a park, where a body was supposedly located. Is that correct?
Correct, Deep River Park.
When you got there, no body there.
That's correct.
And I think you alluded to at least one other location. Is it one more, or is it a handful more in Indiana, that places that you went to look for bodies, or you or your apartment?
That's what I was involved in, sir.
Just the Deep River one, or there
Correct.
To your knowledge, were there other places that were looked at?
There were other locations that she had directed Detective Ogden to.
Okay. And perhaps if they were asking what we found there, rather than
That
asking.
would be best.
All right, thank you, sir. Now, she also told me about this guy over in Effingham, Illinois, that struck her, that she allegedly killed. And again, there's no record of that, correct?
That's correct.
And she provided you this list, and you said it's a rather vague list, no last names, things of that nature, correct?
Correct.
Again, kind of, I don't think you used the word vague. Would that be a fair way to call it?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you also said you felt leery around her on the May 1st, if I have the date right, the time you interviewed her. What do you mean by that?
She's talking about murder and how she's murdered numerous people. I got a little leery.
Okay, well, she make any kind of threats to you at all?
No.
She come at you at all?
She talked about eyes. She talked about, she looks into people's eyes. And so yeah, I got a little spooked.
Okay, but she didn't make any overt threats. She didn't come after you with a pen or anything like that, or try to
She did not.
attack you. Okay. You said when you searched the vehicle, you found this DSM-4, which is a book, basically, correct?
Correct, it's a manual.
Manual, thank you. And you also said that you found some envelopes that had some letters in it, and the jury's going to take a look at those letters later. Were these envelopes hidden, or were they all in the open?
In the open.
Thank you. Any further?
Thank you. Have you read that?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You can step down and be released from your subpoena.
Thank you.
Your Honor, people next call Michael Niger. And Your Honor, due to our cuts in the witness list this morning, this is the last witness I have for today.
Right. Members of the jury, it's common during the course of a trial where the evidence comes in unexpected ways or ways that do not necessitate all of the witnesses that are named. The prosecution has scheduled today to call a certain number of witnesses, so we're going to end early. You can bail, you can enjoy the weather. All right, Mr. Niger. you would stand, sir, raise your right hand, sworn.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please be seated.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling well, thank you.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Michael Allen Niger. My last name is spelled N-E-I-G-E-R.
And what is your present occupation?
I'm currently the lead investigator with Michigan Backcountry Search and Rescue out of Marquette, Michigan.
And could you explain for the jury a little bit about what Michigan Backcountry Search and Rescue is and what it does?
I'm basically an independent investigator who works for free, assisting law enforcement agencies, victims, and victims' families with unsolved missing person cases and unsolved homicides.
And is that only in Michigan, or do you branch out to other locations?
I work in the Great Lakes area as well as all the way up to the Arctic Ocean in Canada.
Are there other people involved in your organization?
From time to time, I do work with another individual or two, but most of the time I work by myself.
And you indicated that you don't receive compensation for doing this. Are you like a nonprofit corporation where people donate money to your?
No, there's no money changing hands at all. I'm not even a nonprofit. I don't solicit donations or accept them. I basically just work for free, 100% volunteer. Very simple.
And Mr. Niger, how many hours do you think that you spent working with Chief Rizzo on this investigation over the last 2 years?
I don't know the exact hours, but I do know that I spent over 70 days assisting the chief with their investigation of this case.
And was that a positive experience?
Oh, absolutely.
Prior to Backcountry Search and Rescue, what did you do for employment?
I was employed by the Michigan Department of State Police. I spent 4 years as a road trooper and then 22 years as a detective sergeant. Half my time probably in the Detroit area, Detroit metropolitan area, and the other half in the Upper Peninsula working out of Marquette at the crime lab.
And were you a forensic scientist at the Marquette Crime Lab?
Yes.
And did you have a particular specialty within the crime lab?
Yes, I did.
And what was your specialty?
My specialty was latent fingerprints and also processing crime scenes and testifying in court.
And was Detective Sergeant the highest rank you achieved at MSP?
Yes.
Did you receive any specialized training during your time as a forensic scientist or as a trooper?
Yes, quite a bit, both on the job and specialized courses and whatnot.
And could you just give an example, perhaps, of some of the specialized courses you're referring to?
Well, it would deal with all facets of evidence collection, not only just my specialty of latent fingerprints, but also processing crime scenes for evidence would include photography, lifting fingerprints, it would be recognizing evidence, collecting and packaging it.
And did you receive any specialized training in the area of computer forensics or mobile phones, since those are so popular now?
No, that I did not.
When did you, have you kept up your skills since you've gotten out of the Michigan State Police?
Yes, in the areas that I specialize, I'm certified by the National Association for Search and Rescue as a StarTech 2. I've also certified as a combat tracker, and I hold memberships in several different national or international organizations, homicide investigation, cold case investigation, and professional tracking and crime scene investigation. And through those memberships, there are newsletters and journals and whatnot, and discussions and stuff. So that's another way that I, keep abreast of my area of expertise. And I also, from time to time, work with different investigators and different evidence technicians. For instance, the Michigan State Police, I work with them from time to time, their evidence technicians, and I've worked with the FBI and their evidence techs, and then I've also worked with Chief Rizzo's evidence techs out working on scenes.
Now you referenced two terms that I'm not familiar with, so what is a SARTEC 2?
That's just, that's a level of search and rescue in terms of the skill that one has to go out and search for people. There's several different levels, and that's basically the field level. That's the level for that a searcher should be at to go out and to conduct searches.
And what is a combat tracker?
Well, combat tracker is another form of man tracking. In other words, looking for spoor or sign of someone, either as one would expect, the footprints, or they may have dropped a cigarette, or there may be some blood, or there may be some hair fiber, from their clothing or from their body. So any evidence of an individual passing through an area at some time.
When did you first become involved in this investigation?
It would have been in November, about November 10th, 2014, a few weeks after Mr. Reagan went missing.
And how did you become involved in this investigation?
Well, I monitor missing person cases and unsolved cases, and I had been watching this case here. Excuse me. I noted it had gone on for three or 4 weeks, and it was still open. So I reached out to Chief Rizzo and discussed the case with her a little bit, and that's how I first got introduced to this case.
Now, when you first become involved in one of these types of investigations, first of all, do you create reports about your activities in investigations?
Oftentimes I do, that's correct.
And are those reports turned over to law enforcement if you're working with law enforcement?
Yes.
So now, when you participate in one of these missing person investigations, there's something you do at the beginning of the investigation to get the word out about the missing person.
Yes.
And what is that?
Well, in this case here, as I mentioned, I met with Chief Rizzo and talked to her about her case and her agency and what she was doing, and she basically directed me that she wanted to get a professional poster done, missing person poster that could be printed in hard copy and circulated in her community in the area. Also, a digital copy of it so it could be circulated on the internet through social media. She also mentioned that she'd like to have a professional website built to support her investigations, her department's investigation of this case. And so that's some of the things that I did for her.
Okay, so you did create a poster to be circulated, digitized media to be circulated, and then also a website?
Yes, that's correct.
And do you know whether there was a reward offered in this matter?
Yes, there was.
And do you know who put up the reward?
My organization put up the reward.
Now, Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to admit Joint Exhibit number 103, which is a PowerPoint from Mr. Negger's reports.
103 is received.
Now, Mr. Negger, is this the poster that you created in this matter?
Yes, that's it. That poster was created by myself and Chief Rizzo.
And how was the poster distributed after creation?
Once it was, once we designed it and we got it approved, we had it printed. I believe it was printed in Marquette, and then I gave, several copies to the chief, and then she had me distribute them throughout the Western Upper Peninsula. I think we put out about 300 copies, and we also distributed some in northern Wisconsin. And then, there were digital. There was a website. We built a website for Chris to support her investigation, and so we had digital copies of the poster on there, and we set about making those available and getting them circulated on Facebook and whatnot, and sending them to. I believe she sent them to other police agencies that were may have some interest in this case, depending on how it developed.
I want to turn your attention now to November 13th, 2014. Did you and Chief Rizzo go and examine Chris Regan's Hyundai Genesis on that day?
Yes, we did.
And where was the vehicle located?
I believe it was in the city of Iron River. It was at if I'm not mistaken, at a dealership. I can look at my report and tell you, but I don't have the exact. I don't remember the name of the business that it was at. I think it was secured at a tow yard, possibly, in secure storage.
Okay. Were you looking for anything in particular on that date?
Yes, the chief had indicated that, she wanted to have a second look at the vehicle, and so we were looking for any evidence of Chris or his whereabouts. I believe we were looking for different types of trace evidence, hairs and fibers. We were also looking for any other physical evidence that might be in the vehicle. And I think we may have looked for fingerprints and soil samples and some any type of vegetation that was attached to the car.
When you have a missing persons case, is it sometimes difficult to ascertain what's important and what isn't important to the case?
Yes, that's true of a lot of different cases. We don't really know what's going to be relevant to the case until sometimes after the fact. So it's important to try and cover all the bases. In this case, the car was going to be disposed of, and we wouldn't be able to go back to it in 2 months if we needed something from it. So that was one of the reasons that Chief Frizzle was very adamant about taking a second or third look at this vehicle to make sure that we hadn't missed anything that we might need later.
Did you, together with Chief Frizzle, collect some items when you examined the car that day?
Yes, we did.
Okay. In general, what were some of the things you collected?
I believe we collected a number of hairs and fibers from the vehicle, and I believe we also collected a stocking cap.
And was it a navy blue stocking cap?
If I may refer to my report just to
Would that refresh your memory?
yes, it would, if I could.
Your Honor, does he have permission?
You may.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have the color listed. I just have it described as one stocking hat with visible hair-like specimens attached from the passenger side of the back seat. And so unfortunately I can't answer the question as to the color. If I recall, it was a grayish or bluish or that kind of color, but I don't have it in my notes. Let me see if I have it in my handwritten notes.
I don't want you to spend too much time, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor, because we do already have it admitted in evidence.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you also do a walking search near the Caspian mine pit in 2004 or in November 2014?
Yes.
Okay. And a search around the area of the parking ride?
Yes.
Was anything notable found during those searches?
Just, a lack of, we didn't find anything. I didn't find anything that was apparent that I could recall that was relevant to the case.
When you were there in November 2014 near the parking ride, did you also go down to the Wildwood Lake area?
I was down to the Wildwood Lake area. I can't, without looking at the report, I couldn't tell you if it was then because Chief Frizzle had me go out a number of times to different areas. So, but I was at the Wildwood Lake area, correct?
And regardless of what time you went there over the last 2+ years, do you recall finding anything of interest in the Wildwood Lake area?
No, I don't believe we were able to locate anything we could determine was relevant to the case.
Okay. I now want to direct your attention to December 2014. Did you assist Chief Frizzle with a search warrant of Chris Regan's apartment?
Yes.
And were you looking for anything in particular in December? Do you recall?
It was similar to the car, and the chief wanted to make sure that, he looked at the apartment over, give it a second or third look, because it was going to be released and cleaned out, so we wouldn't be able to, go back to it. So we spent, I think I spent 3 days there, and she introduced me to the apartment, told me what she wanted done, and my main focus was on the entryway to the apartment, both outside in the hallway and inside around the entryway and the adjacent areas to that. So that's where I spent most of my time.
And what items do you recall collecting during that time frame?
One of the things we were looking for were fingerprints. You had to look for fingerprints, so I spent a lot of time doing fingerprints. I did get latent fingerprints from the entryway, both on the outside and on the wall, and then inside the apartment we got some fingerprints. And then we were also looking for any biological material like stains or anything like that, blood or semen or any human biological material. So I believe I collected a number of what I thought could potentially be biological samples. I may have also got some hairs and fibers perhaps, and I believe we took the sample. We took the traps from a couple of sinks in there. The traps that were material water would be trapped below the sink. I believe we collected those and made a few other observations in the apartment and made follow-up.
Did you turn those items over to Chief Rizzo?
Yes.
I want to direct your attention now to May of 2015. Did you assist in processing the residence located at 66 Lawrence Street in Caspian?
Yes, I did.
And whose residence is that?
It's my understanding that's the Cochran residence.
And were there particular areas of the residence you were focused on?
Yes.
And where?
Chief Rizzo had, in briefing me about the case and discussing this residence, she had indicated that she wanted some more work done there, more searching. She directed me to, take a look at there's an outside fire pit by the garage. She wanted me to focus on the lawn. The section of the lawn would be to the northwest corner of the property, kind of around the sidewalk and the front entryway and the yard there, because of some interviews she had done and tips she had gathered. So she wanted me to search the yard, the grass and whatnot to see what was there, both with a metal detector and on my hands and knees to see if there's any non-metallic evidentiary items there. She also asked me to take a look at the entryway, a second look at the entryway, look for any other physical evidence that may be there that we need to, preserve and collect, and then also prepare a drawing of the exterior of the parcel and the adjoining properties around it.
So, starting with the front of the residence, was there anything in particular at the front of the residence that you noticed or that you seized?
Yes, there were some red appearing stains that I saw on the it's like a handicap deck where you could run a wheelchair, and so I observed a stain or two on that surface, and I photographed and collected that. And then on the entryway, the screen door, or the storm door, I believe, and then on the door jamb, and then the door itself, there were some other stains there that I observed, and I photographed and collected those.
Now, what, if anything, did you do with respect to the fire pit?
The fire pit, the chief was very interested in the fire pit because of some of her interviews and the information she had received from the neighbors, so she asked me to take a look at it and see if there's anything there possibly related to the case. It was, I had worked a long day and it was late in the day, so we didn't have a chance to sift the contents of the fire pit, all of the ash. So what we did is we collected it. She provided 3 large evidence bags and basically shoveled up all the contents of the fire pit put them in these 3 bags so they were secured, and then they could be, we could sift them at a later date when we had time, because I didn't have the energy to do it then because I'd already probably worked 10 or 12 hours, and so basically I excavated the entire fire pit right down to the mineral soil, put the contents in those bags, but left the boulders that were the field stone that were around the edge of the fire pit. Obviously we left those, and so collected those, and I did find one item in there. I didn't get a chance to sift it or look at what was in the ash, but I did see in the process of collecting, I did see what would be like you might describe as a reciprocating saw blade in the ash, and so that I did observe that. Other than that, I didn't observe anything else.
Okay. With respect to the fire pit ash, in your experience as a forensic scientist and your years of working with the Michigan State Police, what does fire do to DNA or biological material?
Well, I'm not an expert in DNA or biological material, but it's my understanding that heat, fire and heat is very destructive, and is just very, very destructive.
I now want to turn your attention to some assistance you may have given Chief Frizzo with computer and phone evidence. Were you asked by Chief Frizzo to assist her in reviewing some evidence she received?
Yes, I was.
And was that in July of 2015?
Yes.
What, if anything, were you asked to review by Chief Frizzo?
I was asked to review, she had gathered a ton of digital evidence on this case from a variety of devices, and she'd asked me to help her review it. In this particular case, we were looking at the digital evidence that was extracted from the Cochran computer, a tower computer, I believe is what she told me, and it was extracted and put in this external hard drive. So she provided me with the external hard drive and asked me to review the digital data that was on this hard drive to see what was there that might be relevant to the case. She was very interested in GPS coordinates and maps that might be on there, and also imagery in terms of what might be relevant to the case, either as we do the case right now or as the case will develop itself over the months to come. So that's what I did, was examine the contents of this external hard drive.
What, if anything, did you find with respect to Google searches that was of interest?
I found a number of different GPS coordinates that we mapped out that were in this general area of Iron County that we were going to follow up on, and also in terms of going through, there's 250,000 files on this external hard drive, and in one of the folders there's probably in excess of 160,000 images. So it'd be photographs, pictures, maps, things you would visualize on a computer screen. And among, I couldn't look at all of them because we're talking 250,000 files, but I did do a cursory exam, and I did come across some satellite imagery of what is locally known as the Caspian Pit.
Before we get to the Caspian Pit, I just have a couple questions. You said that there were some GPS coordinates that you were able to map that had been looked at on the computer?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And you said that there were areas in and around Iron County, the Upper Peninsula. What were some of those locations?
Boy, if I could look at my report, I could be a bit more helpful with that.
And so it was July 2015.
Okay, and looking at my report, which covers the period of July 8th through July 28th, 2015, there were lots of GPS coordinates in there. I printed out some that I thought the chief, at her directions, the areas that she might be interested in based on the feedback she had given me when she assigned me this task. And one of the areas here, for example, is M28 near Kenton. And so basically it's a set of coordinates that I mapped out using Google, and just so that the chief and I could see, or anyone else looking at it could see where the coordinates were located from a layperson's standpoint, because otherwise latitude, longitude doesn't really mean much to anybody.
Okay, so that one was Kenton. What are some of the other locations in the neighborhood?
We have another one just south of Sunset Lake. We have one over by Fiume Lake. We have one north of Chicagoland Lake. We have one, looks like by the Walmart Super Center, which should be Iron Mountain. We have one near Ford Airport. We have another one south of Niagara. I mean, the list goes on and on, but I can give you more if you like.
No, that's okay. Were there any indication when you looked at this computer when these coordinates were looked at? And you may not know this is just
That's a good question. There are, well, we could back up, there are, what I did when I did this analysis is the extraction itself just sorted everything nicely in terms of coordinates, maps, and different things. And then once I had them sorted, I tried to date sort things. So, something had a date stamp, we could use that. So, for instance, this one on Kenton here, the coordinate for Kenton, that was dated October 18, 2014. So it looks like most of the coordinates that I've read off to you have dates associated with them, and all of them so far are the 18th of October. But I could go into that to whatever extent you want in terms of the dates.
Okay, going back now to the Caspian pit images that you observed on the defense computer, were you able to ascertain what dates the computer, whoever was using the computer, looked at those images?
Yes, I found there were a lot of satellite images on there and photographs and whatnot, but the three that for what's called the Caspian pit proper, I've selected three and I printed them out along with the data that was associated with them in this exhibit here.
And could you give us the date, because we do have the slide up, however it's impossible, I think, to see it from here.
Yes, there are three images, three records, basically photographs of the Caspian pit, and two of them have dates that are listed as created date of October 9th, 2014. Another one, the third one, has a created date associated with it of October 8th, 2014.
And I have up the first image. Is that one that was created on October 9th, 2014?
Yes, that should be the record number I have associated with it. It came from the extraction file is 108613, and that has a creation date of October 9th, 2014 at 6:10 a.m.
And the second image, is that also the Caspian pit?
Yes, that's basically zoomed in much closer, and that one I have associated with record number 108791, and that one has a creation date association of October 8th, 2014 at 7:20 in the morning.
And the third one?
Excuse me, the third one I have associated with record number 107697, and that has a listed creation date of October 9th, 2014 at 6:10 a.m.
And were all of these searches conducted to your knowledge prior to Chris Regan's disappearance?
Based on the dates that I found associated with these 3 images, yes.
Now, were you able to tell from your review of the computer who may have been using the computer at the time these searches were conducted?
No, I was not.
I now want to direct your attention to May 18th, 2016. Were you called to a location to assist Chief Frizzo on that date?
Yes, I was.
And what location were you called to?
I believe that was along Pentoga Lane. If I can refer to my report here. Thank you. I apologize, I'm just getting over the flu. So,
Do you want a cough drop?
no, I'm all set, thanks. Okay, so I have a report in front of me from May 18th to the 20th for labeled the Pentoga Trail crime scene.
And why were you called to that location on that date?
I have been, corresponding and working with Chief Frizzo on this case right along, and she was, cutting work orders and stuff for things that need to be done on this case, and we happened to be texting back and forth about what we were going to be doing in the near term on the case, and she had mentioned that she was out searching, and that she had just come across what she thought was a human skull. So, she wanted, to get some assistance with searching and processing the area where she found this human skull along Pentoga Trail.
So, did you proceed to that location on May 18th?
I believe I started preparing for that. I was in Marquette, so I came over the next day, and I believe I spent 3 days there.
And what did you do? First of all, what time approximately did you arrive?
If I can look at my report here. Okay, I did arrive on the 18th. It was the 17th. We were discussing the case, and she made it find. I arrived in the Iron River area at 9:52 a.m., which would be my time, Eastern time, on the 18th. I spent 3 days working at the direction of the chief along Pentoga Trail.
And what did you do upon arrival?
Upon arrival, I was, met the chief and was briefed on, with what was going on. She gave me a tour of the area in terms of what she had found and what had been done, before I arrived. And then she directed me to thoroughly search the area, for evidence, as well as search, around the skull and where she had found some other evidence that she felt was related to the case. So she asked me to continue searching those areas and to prepare a sketch for the area in terms of what had been done and what we were going to do. And also she wanted me to do some, not only visual ground searching, but some metal detecting, and just to assist her and her staff and different agencies he had there with the search.
Did you find anything while you were out there searching?
Yes, as a team we found a lot of stuff. Personally, I believe I found what was subsequently believed to be glasses that belonged to Chris Regan.
And how did you happen to find those glasses?
In the course of basically doing a grid search, looking at the ground carefully, I spotted what I thought were my wire-rimmed glasses that I had fallen out of my pocket, and when I looked at them closer, I realized that I had mine, and those were not mine, they were different. So that's how I found those.
Approximately how far away were those wire glasses from the tree that testimony previously identified as a tree of interest by Kelly Cochran?
If I could look at my notes.
And Your Honor, by agreement, we have joint exhibit number 1 off by this time, which is actually Mr. Niger's report from May 18th through 20th.
That's number 1.
It's number 104.
Received.
It'll take me just a minute here to get you that distance. It's relatively close.
And are you referring to your report or your notes?
If I'm going to give you a distance, it's probably going to have to be from my field notes.
Can you just give us an approximation of the exact distance?
All right. I'll look at my report then.
I know you scientists want to be exact. We're okay with approximate.
Well, okay. So you wanted to know the wire rim glasses from what was the tree you wanted to know again? What was the question again, please?
Approximately how far it was from the tree that was identified by the defendant. And did Chief Rizzo point out a tree to you that was down on the ground that had been...
Yes, it had been cut down?
Right.
Okay, yes, there was another tree too that had evidence, so I'm sorry. So, boy, it would only be, looking at my drawing here would be a matter of feet, probably, again, I don't have it exact, but it would just be a matter of feet, less than 12 feet probably.
Okay, did you find other items, and there were some bones that were recovered, right?
Correct.
And so far the testimony has been that all of the bones that we've discussed to date, other than the skull, have been non-human. Did you find snuff cans?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and was there more than one?
I personally found one on the opposite side of Pentoga Trail from where the tree was cut down, and the glasses we just referred to. And it's also my understanding that prior to my arrival, a deputy sheriff with the Iron County Sheriff's Department recovered or found another snuff container.
Did you also do something with respect to a metal detector?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do, first of all, what date did you do something with respect to a metal detector?
I may have, it's possible I used the metal detector all 3 of those days. I can't tell you right now exactly when I used it, but Chief Rizzo was very interested in having me thoroughly search the area where she found what was believed to be a skull. And so I used the metal detector in that area, and then she also directed me to do more metal detecting in the area where between the road and where all the other evidence was found, because she was looking for, based on some interviews and tips, that she was looking for other evidence that may have been concealed from the naked eye, so we had to use a metal detector for that. So I believe I used the metal detector for those 2 purposes.
Okay, so with respect to some other evidence between the field, or by the tree, I guess is one of the areas that you were searching.
Exactly.
Okay, and that's been in evidence already. Were you looking for a 12 by 18 metal plate in that area, or some other metal covering over what was claimed to be a trophy bag that was buried there?
That's correct.
And did you find that?
No. I also did some work further north and further south on Pentoga Trail, at a little more distant locations, at the chief's direction, looking for what you've just described, the trophies.
Now, with respect to the area around the skull, did you actually find something with a metal detector in the area around the skull?
Yes, the skull was located in an old field, and because it's relevance to the case, did some very careful metal detecting there, and found a number of metallic items. Several of them didn't appear to be relevant to the case. They may have been from a farmhouse or a camp or some other activity that went on there a long time ago. But within a couple feet of the skull, I did find what I believe to be a fired cartridge. Possibly around a .22 caliber. Just looking at it in terms of a lay person.
Well, and the .22 caliber has already been admitted into evidence. Where exactly did you, well, first of all, was it on top of the soil or underneath the soil?
No, it wasn't on top of the soil because I had, pretty much combed basically we're looking at grass, sod right there. And so I'd kind of already searched that to see what was on the surface, what you call the lawn, and didn't find anything. And then using the metal detector, I was able to locate this, what I believe to be a fired cartridge. And I would say it was within an inch or so of the surface. So it was down in the soil. It's hard to say how far it was down because you don't know until you find it. You kind of have to excavate with a trowel and whatnot to find this item, but it definitely was not on top of the grass.
And was it a fairly intact round from your observation?
From my experience in terms of looking at fired cartridges and finding them, we're talking the bullet now. Fired bullet, it appeared to be relatively intact. I mean, it resembled, a .22 caliber slug. I'm sure it was, damaged and it was dirty and whatnot. I don't know how long it had been there, but, I recognized it, based on my experience, as probably being, a small caliber fired cartridge.
Approximately how far away from the skull was that found?
If I could just look at my report, I can share.
And we're just asking for an approximation.
Sure, I'll just look at I'm not going to measure, I'm just going to look and see. Okay, in my report here, it's approximately 2 feet east-northeast of where the human skull-like specimen was located, so about 2 feet away.
Now, Mr. Niger, did you prepare a crime scene drawing of the location on a Cochran Trail?
Yes, I did.
And did you also prepare, while you were out there, a list of all of the evidence that was collected as well as who it was collected by?
Yes, I did.
And we have admitted those with respect to this report. On your crime scene drawing, could you just indicate for the jury, and I'm only talking about just this item, the skull, where that's at on your crime scene drawing?
Where the skull is located on there?
Correct.
Okay. Looking at the drawing on the PowerPoint here, we have basically you have a green background, and then you have two that are kind of irregular yellow areas on there. Those are fields. So if you look to your left, the leftmost yellow field there has a road running like north and south through it, and then it also has a road going off to the right that goes up to field number 2. And you'll see in there I've actually labeled the point where the skull was. I've got it labeled as skull, S-K-U-L-L, with a line there. So it was basically in the center of that field very near the junction of those two tracks.
And this was an item you prepared and you've identified on this particular scene drawing a list of where all of those evidence items were located that day?
Yes, all of the numbers
Those
on
days.
there. Pardon me?
I said those days.
Yes, all of the numbers on that drawing there correspond to or cross-referenced in an evidence list that's in the same report as that drawing.
Now, Doctor, did you also prepare...
Do you have much left?
This is it. This is the end of it. Did you prepare this slide as well?
Yes, I did.
And just briefly, what is this slide depict?
This slide here is a map, an overview of all of the relevant areas of interest that the chief directed me to during this investigation in Iron, where the park and ride is, and also where the Pentoga Trail scene was. It kind of ties everything together.
Thank you, Mr. Niger. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Shoki, do you have your
I expect I'll be done by 3 or shortly thereafter. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Now, in terms of your visits to the Cochran home and the Reagan apartment, it'd be fair to say that your function was to note evidence, note where it was, be a photograph, catalog it, and collect it. Is that fair to say that was your function?
Yes.
You wanted to have done any kind of analysis on any kind of this evidence?
No, I was just there to see if we could find any evidence that we could collect and preserve and take it to others for analysis.
Very good. Now, when you looked at this extraction computer, I believe that you had told us about several locations that had been looked up, maybe their GPS coordinates thereof. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes.
And again, you don't know who did that or what purpose they had in mind when they did that. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's correct.
Same for the images, the casting pit. You don't know who that was that did that or what their purpose for doing that was. Would that be fair to say as well?
That would be correct. You know, there is some linkage to the case, some other facts, but you're right. I don't know who was doing it or what was in their mind when they were doing it.
Okay. Again, they could have had a completely innocent purpose in mind, looking for a fishing spot or something like that.
That would be within the realm of possibilities.
And again, when you were at this scene at the Total Trail, this bullet that was found, again, you no idea how it got there, how long it had been there, or anything like that. Just found it near the skull, correct?
Correct.
Could have been completely happenstance that it was there. Is that correct?
You know, I don't know the origin of it or the history of it, so I couldn't comment on it.
Were there other things around there that indicate that there was shooting going on? I know when I go to the woods a lot, I sometimes find plastic parts of a shotgun shell. Did you find anything like that out there in that area?
You know, I don't recall finding that, but you're very right. I frequently come across items like that. Because of the volume of material we were dealing with, I just, you know, worked with Chief Rizzo in terms of what was relevant, and if something was relevant, you know, we documented it. If it wasn't, we kept moving because, you know, there is lots of litter and other things, you know, in the woods, and so we have a limited amount of time, so she kind of focused our attention.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, sir. You
I did just have one redirect, Your Honor. Is it okay if I just question from here?
Yes.
Mr. Nygaard, were items of interest to your knowledge found in the Caspian pit?
Yes.
And do you recall what those items were?
One of a burn barrel was found in the Caspian pit, and an item of, you know, extreme interest was a rifle barrel or a portion of the rifle barrel that was found in the Caspian pit.
And was the portion of the rifle barrel found in the area indicated in the zoomed-in image of Caspian pit?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You are excused from your subpoena.
Thank you.
You may leave the courtroom or stay and watch the proceedings as you choose. Ms. Pohl,
Your Honor,
you're done for the day?
Yes.
And members of the jury, I normally would keep going until we exhausted the party's witnesses, but some of these witnesses are professional people and they were scheduled for a certain day and time, so that's what we're stuck with. So I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm kind of relieved that we're done for the day. We're going to stand adjourned, and again, my reminders to you about who not to talk to and what not to talk about. No experiments, no moving scenes. You're excused.
Your Honor, what would you like us to do?
I can,
All rise.
they'll be given back to you later.